Today's video is brought to you by my closet. Hi, my name's Kat and I write under the pen name KD Reed. I wasn't actually planning to do a video today, but here we are. So I sat down to start outlining my novellas that I'm going to self-publish. I decided that I was going to do it a certain way, and then I thought, oh, that would be a fun video to do about outlining, and so I sat down to start shooting video, and I realized that my kids are asleep, and I was going to wake them up, so now we're outlining in my closet. Before we do an outlining video, because I said in my last video that my next video, which would be this video, would be my TBR for January. If you don't really care too much about the TBR, I will see if I can put down in the description box a link to sort of just jump forward to the outlining thing if you're here just for the writing. I'll try. Books that I'm reading in January are... I'm hoping it's not all going to be mirrored because I'm in my selfie camera. I watched a little bit of video earlier to test my sound, and I don't think it was mirroring my book up here on my shelf, the Everworld series by K.A. Applegate. I started rereading this series and trying to finish it in December when I realized I was really behind on my reading goals for 2019. These books are super short. They're young adult. I wouldn't say they're middle grade. They deal with stuff that's not middle grade. So yeah, we're going to go with young adult. Young adult, they're fun, they're short, they're quick. I can read about 2 of them in a day if I really dedicate myself. So I'm going to be finishing these up at the beginning of this year, which should give me a good jump start for last year. Last year, like, I think it was the last 2 weeks or week of December, I decided I was just going to try to crank out this whole series. I didn't do the whole series, but I got through 8 or 9. I think I got through 8, and then I read 9 the first, 3-day week of January, and then finished up my arc, and then now I'm back to these. The next book for January is Wicked King by Holly Black. Now, we're reading this series. I talked about in my last video the Hidden Worlds anthology series, and Hidden Worlds is also a book club that Michelle and Lindsay and I run on Facebook. Hidden Worlds is just sort of a branding that we do for anything that involves all 3 of us, and we are reading these for the book club. For December's was Cruel Prince, this month's is The Wicked King, next month is Queen of Nothing, and it's not too late to come and join us if you want to come and read this book with us. So, next, Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This book was one that was recommended to me last year by Lindsay France because she was reading it with her high school class that she teaches, and I was on hold for it for a really long time. I tried to get the audiobook, and then the audiobook wasn't on overdrive anymore, and then I was on hold for some more, and I finally got it at the end of last year, and I got halfway, a third. What page am I on? 236. So, I'll finish this up as soon as I finish getting caught up with my reading with The Wicked King, and smash the last of these Everworld books. My last book I want to read in January, Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. And I'm not going to say too much about this right now, but I've got another video that I want to do about exciting things to do with this. Oh yeah, that was fun. Now that I've spent way too long talking about reading and not writing, let's do some outlining. So, I decided for these novellas that I'm going to try to do for this year, I've got a timeline together for myself, which is probably too ambitious, but we're just going to jump into it and see what happens, because who cares? And I decided that what I'm going to do is a 4-book series that revolves around the short story Paradox of the Magi, which I published in When You Play with Magic. This story, When You Play with Magic, is kind of coming off of the market, at least for a minute in March. Then some things are kind of being tossed up in the air, and we'll see where it lands, and I'll try to keep you posted. But if you want to get a copy of that book, $2.99 on Amazon. That's the last I'm going to try to plug it. Okay, so since it's coming down in March, I will get my story back so that I can put it out there in a new way. I think I'm going to put it up as a freebie story to introduce the 4 novellas that I want to base off of this story. Before I can write these novellas, though, I realized I need to read back through the original short story and see kind of what world rules I have set up so far and what the magic system looks like so far. So I am just reading through the story itself and jotting down some notes. I have this notebook, which I really love. It was from my Reddit Secret Santa this year, so I don't know if you found this video. Hey, thanks, I enjoy it. And I'm using it. So, title page. It's all written in pencil, so you're not going to be able to see it, I don't think. No. I'm going to go with no. Anyway, I've got a page for a 2-page spread for green magic, white magic, black magic, blue magic. And then I have another 2-page spread in here that I'm going to use to just jot down, like, general world rules that I made up whenever I wrote this story forever ago. So, here we go. I'm finding this to be super beneficial because because when I wrote this story, I just was sort of writing a cool story. So this story actually was originally based off of just a dream that I had. I had a really bizarre... I also keep losing track of which side of the camera it is on, so I'll be staring off into space a lot in this one, I guess. Anyway, I wrote this story very haphazardly, in a discovery sort of way as I was learning my writing process, and therefore a lot of the world building and magic system wasn't intentionally world building or magic system. It was just sort of what I thought made sense for the story. And considering how haphazard it was, I'm surprised to see that, and it's kind of fun to pick through. I wonder if I can find something really quick just to give an example. Okay, so the hierarchy of mages is a good example, because I remember thinking that I needed to have like a mage in charge. What was that going to be called? It was going to be called Grand Mage, and I needed something for my main character to be called, because what she's trying to do is become a Grand Mage, and I wanted a title for her, so I came up with the title of Ascender. So, like Ascension, like moving up, was my thought at the time. And whereas I was just sort of trying to come up with terminology for myself to tell the story, I can read here, the time had come for her to pursue ultimate ascension. She had seen all the other grand magi come and go at least once, but had not yet been able to train an ascender to take her place. Now, that's a sentence that I remember writing, and I got to that sentence and said, crap, I don't know what I'm going to call these people, and I came up with names, but as a reader, that is establishing world rule for me. It's establishing a mage's hierarchy. Maybe all of this is completely ridiculous to someone else, but I wanted to do a writing vlog, so that's what I'm doing, okay? Blue magic governs energy, green magic governs nature. So those are two that goes in the notebook. Anybody else watch Blue's Clues? Could put it in the handy dandy notebook. I might edit that out. I'm embarrassing myself on the internet. Okay, so got a couple of world rules here that are sort of intoned in this dramatic way that whenever I wrote the short story, were relevant to the short story, but whenever I'm writing the novellas, I might have accidentally backed myself into a corner with these, because they're pretty, like, there are 4 magics in total. One works in tandem with another, and that's my place again. Anyway, they have to keep the world in balance in order for, let's see, so that existence can be infinite, always in balance. They must, the two must exist cooperatively, or no magic can exist at all. So those are some pretty high stakes that I've set for myself. So, my story starts on page 33. I am several rules about magic and the world in, and I'm on page 34, so I suppose kudos to myself for establishing a lot of world in a short bit of time. But there's 6. I go to page 60. This is going to be a long haul, guys. My use of had and that in this story is criminal. Oh no. I remember very clearly making this story mostly about the white and black magic of this world, and I'm curious to see how much I've actually established about the blue and the green magic. I know we spend some time with it, but we'll see. Okay, so one of the reasons I need to do this outline is because for the 4 novellas, I don't really know what I want those stories to look like yet, who I want them to focus on, what I want the conflicts to be. So I'm using this outline as a way to see what these magics look like, what these magics look like, what kind of conflicts sort of arise naturally. I lost my pencil. Anyway, so what kind of conflicts can arise naturally from the world given all of the things, all the infrastructure that it has already. Now, all of that so that I can point out that I have started another 2-page spread to jot down what these novella stories could end up looking like. I guess you could say I'm making a story idea brain dump page just so that I don't get distracted, which is easy for me to do. And that story idea that I just jotted down was actually sort of born out of, again, I've come across another rule that may end up writing me into a corner. But I think part of the fun of writing is if you get yourself in a corner, I like to try to at least figure out how I might write myself out of said corner. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes the corner is just a box and you can't write out of the box. But I think this time I think I can. So I just sort of posed a question to myself and said, okay, well, if this happens, what kind of story would come of that? And we'll see if that one ends up making it as the novella for that particular color of magic. It's about time for my kids to wake up, so I'm going to take this back upstairs. if I can get them to let me do some, like, occasional recording, I will keep going with this upstairs, and if not, then I'll just be back here in just a second for you. Maybe longer for me to sort of check in and see how this is going, because it's taking forever. I'm on page 35. How do you turn off breaking? I didn't even know you turn breaking off in Minecraft.
I can't blink. I can blink things, but not pick them up because nothing drops.
Nothing drops. Okay, so tile drops. See if that works.
Okay.
It work? Yeah. You gotta try to read the settings you're changing. So, something I'm realizing as I'm going through and taking these notes is I wrote this story from the point of view of, oh my god, words. An unreliable narrator. So I'm having to take a lot of the, like, opinion of other magics and how they operate out of this and just breaking it down into the basic rules of how it works. You set a skeleton on fire?
Yes, it's a
4? Oh, cool.
2 from that skeleton that had armor on, and 2 from the skeleton I just fought.
Should find some chickens and sticks, man. Go digging in some gravel. So it's interesting that I wrote this from the point of view of an unreliable narrator because, for one, again, I didn't do it intentionally. I just did it because I felt like it fit the story. It's amazing how easy it is to do something like that whenever you're just, I don't know. I was just writing the story instead of thinking about all the elements, and I feel like now that I think about all the elements, I almost have more trouble writing a story. It's ironic. But anyway, I find it interesting also because we read The Cruel Prince, like I said earlier, for the book club last month, and one of the things that didn't jive with me so much is that it's told from the point of view of Jude, who I consider to be a very unreliable narrator, and it's interesting to read some of my own work where I have an unreliable narrator, considering how many gripes I have with that archetype. So I'm in the kitchen putting bread in the oven, and I'm realizing I think I need to go back and see what I was reading while I was writing this story, because I'm pretty happy with how I put together a lot of, like, my sentence structure. So I think I need to revisit what I was reading and maybe what I was listening to at the time to see if I can get back into that mode again before I start writing these novellas. Her inflection seemed to reveal everything yet nothing, like she knew all the secrets of the forest, and so could Eleanor if only she looked hard enough. Dog had to go outside. But yeah, what headspace was I in when I wrote that? That sounds pretty good. It's like I'm okay with those words and claiming those, and for some reason everything else that I write feels like garbage. This is also like why I enjoy Wednesdays, where I get a full 5 hours that I don't have to worry about other stuff. And I don't have, because this video has been pretty, live time, I sit down, I write for a few minutes, and oh, the bread has to go in the oven. I sit down, I write for a few minutes, and oh, the Minecraft settings need fixed, and the dog needs to go out. Just looking around to see if my neighbors are out, watching me be a crazy person, talk to my phone. I don't think there are any neighbors out. I don't think. But yeah, this is. I mean, this is real life. This is how the writing game goes. Whenever you're doing things other than mostly just the care of other beings. Kate Kavanaugh's channel was really inspiring for me because she does kind of the same thing where she is just sort of like, this is life and this is how I write stuff. So, this is life, this is how I write stuff.
I even got in.
Cool.
And a diamond sword, iron,
Just finished page 40. It's moving a little quicker now because I have come to a place in the story where we're getting to know the main character a little more, so it's more character-centric and less plot and world-centric. Something I did in this story was I wrote each color of magic into a different region, and each of those regions have a different way of life, and it's going to be interesting to try to better reconcile all of these in a more extended story arc. Hello. Did you have a good nap? Yeah?
Mommy.
Yes. Alright, so kid number 2 up from nap.
Very cold.
Yeah? Hey, would you guys like to have some chocolate eclair cake?
Yeah! Oh no.
That's the bread. Okay, let's see. I'm on page 42. Mm-hmm. Just finished page 49. Oh, Eleanor. So now I'm doing the dishes because I have finished the extraction of world rules and magic system that are already existent in this world. I'm pretty happy with where it ended up. I ended up with about a page of questions that I think would be a good place to start for these novellas, just things that could use an answer. So, yeah, I think that's now why I'm going to pretty much just track my entire process with these novellas because they're self-published. I'm just doing them to be writing something and publishing it and putting it out there. So since it's just for me, I'm not super worried about like the kinds of things you would be worried about if you were trying to get something together for traditional publication where you would want to keep it under wraps. I'm not worried about that with this. Now I am going to want to try to market it, so it's not like I'm just going to be spouting off the entire story for the YouTube channel, but I am going to try to be pretty open about just my general process so I can get some writing videos here and do some writing vlogs. So I'm going to finish up these dishes and go take care of these crazy kids, and I hope that you have a lot of writing time in January.